Um, this story actually makes my hair go on, and it really does. It's truly one of the creepiest stories um, ever, but it's really extremely documented. The gendarmes interviewed the lady. She wrote about it, not to make money. She just passed the story on. She never had any more sightings or anything. A lot of people say it's UFOs. Some people say it's demonic. I haven't the faintest, but I'll tell you the story. It happened in November 1950, so quite some years ago. And this story is very similar to a lot of stories. And in fact, the next one I record is I should do that one. I think after this one, so it'll go well with this. But anyway, it's a young lady who's walking down the side of the river on the banks. A beautiful day. Uh, you know, having a little stroll. Don't think she ever described if she's going to work or going back, so I can just assume she went for a stroll. And she was on her own, nobody else on the banks, and suddenly there's a blinding light, a massive light, and it sort of paralysed her. Whether it was fear, it just stops her. And then just then, she didn't see anything. She just saw black hands, cold black hands, like it's made of steel, totally black, no arms and nothing. Anyway, I think I would be myself, honestly. Anyway, these hands then just came out from nowhere of this bright light and grabbed over her face vigorously, being as if they're made of steel, and clenched it on her face and dragged her forward. And she could feel as if the um, where she dragged, if the chest was made of steel, 'cause it was so cold and so hard, the whole body, when these hands dragged her, not only hands felt solid like steel, but as she pressed it, brought and pressed her body onto this thing. So this thing had like a shell, like a steel, and very, very cold and very solid. She didn't know what it was, but it obviously frightened her to death. And it literally, the hands got tighter and tighter and got around her neck, and she thought she was struggling to breathe, and then suddenly she felt, and this went on a few minutes. In fact, the old lot lasted over 20 minutes, so it was a fine experience altogether. Anyway, well, any word of warning, it kneed her from behind, so she fell on the floor. So it didn't use any specific power, it just kneed her, and she fell on the floor. Then it dragged her. It dragged her to the bushes. Remember, she couldn't see anything. She sort of saw these hands coming from nowhere, and then the light disappeared, and these hands are dragging her to the bushes and dragged her on. And she's holding her bag with like with her money in. And then just then she'd heard a voice saying, "Look, I bought her. She's here," sort of thing. And the voice said she always described it as if it's underwater, as if if somebody were talking as if it underwater. It sounded strange. I'll come back to this, which minute. Anyway, and then so we were talking to somebody, and she heard another voice answer it, but she couldn't recognise it and couldn't, pin it down. But she heard two voices, and then, like I say, dragged her through these edges, and it dragged her across like an open field, and then it sort of laughed. There was like a laughing sign to it, and then it sort of got hold of her face and dispersed, and then And then she sat there, and she sat up and holding a bag with her money in, and sat there for a few minutes. Then she was literally fatigued as well. It caused so much fatigue. She really couldn't walk and stand up. She was, it not just fritting her. The energy, what it gave out was incredibly. She said it was had like electric energy. She described electric energy going through her body and sapping her, and she had a really bad taste of metal in her mouth and smell of metal. That horrible, like a magnetical energy. When you ever work or come near it, you smells and you can taste it. It's like that. Anyway, she made her way back to the footpath where the river was, still incredibly fatigued and tired and frightened. So she got to the path and started walking up, and she knew there were a lockhouse where wife and gentleman. So she went to the gate, and just as she got to the gate, the lady opened the door and says, "Can we help you?" And he says, and she saw and she knew straight away she needed out, so she took her in and put iron oxide on the cuts and says, your marks, you've got really bad marks where somebody pressed their fingers so hard on your face. And she says, what happened? And she began to explain. Well, and the couple said they saw the light. They didn't see any hands, but they saw the light also. And so, yeah. But the fatigue only disappeared as further she went. And the thing with it, just before she got to that cottage as well, from failing to mention, which is quite an interesting part also, is that just before she got to that cottage, she thought she was safe, as if it just teased her one last little bit, and because she's walked now 30 yards, and she thinks she's safe. Then she just heard the trees rustle one last little bit, just before she got to that gate, and then she stopped, and whatever it was, it made her freeze, and she could hear something whistling, and just then there was like this funny horrible laugh, a gurgling laugh, she says, and then she heard this like a coldness come. Then she heard this whoosh, and she felt like a freezing coldness came over her, and this whoosh just went by her. But she didn't see anything, nothing at all. Just heard the trees crackle and move, and the leaves move, and this rush of cold air going by. And just as she thought she was safe, it was like, aha. But then she went to the gate, and the lady and gentleman brought her in and gave her iron oxide, and she told her about everything, including that last for the gate. But they didn't see that; they just saw the bright light previous. So it was incredibly. I get goosebumps just thinking about this. I do. Yeah, in that last bit, I think that's why I try not to think about it. I really didn't. Because imagine going through all that and thinking you're safe, then it comes again. Oh gosh, it's here again. It's and poor girl. But yeah, it happened. She reported it to the gendarmes in France, November 1950. And when people asked her, she still kept to the story. The gendarme obviously did a massive report. It's I've never seen it. It'd be huge. It'd probably be unpleasant to see. It'd be sad. Hopefully, I don't know what happened to the young lady. I hope she recovered well, and eventually she somehow forgot about it and got on with her life, because it's awful. Um, if it's happened before, it must have done. It can't have just happened then. Is it a UFO? I don't know. Um, some of the reports put it down to demonic. I don't know. I haven't a clue. Can we tell them apart? Don't know. I ain't got a clue. Just know it's frightening. and I thought I'd put it down here because it's unknown. It could be anything, and it's well reported. So I thought I'd mention it. But there's another story which um, I ought to mention after this one, but this one spooks me so much I don't think I can now. But yeah, but then the couple sorted the young lady out and helped her, so which is good. But, gosh, frightening. Anyway, I hope you like the story. It's a frightening, awful story, I know, it really is, but true. God bless.